it's a it's a great risk to actually be yourself. And there's something I want to remind myself of. There's a diary entry I want to make, but I also want to make it publicly in case it's a diary help entry that can help anybody. And even though I make these recordings and videos and no one watches, maybe someday one person will. And that's the efficaciousness of lightning. One of the interesting things about lightning is that lightning, there are certain types of lightning that reach down from the sky, and there are certain types of lightning that reach up from the ground. That's so interesting. They share they share principles, but they are also unique, these kinds of lightning. And I'm not an expert in it, but I wouldn't even say I'm an enthusiast of the study of lightning, but I'm a admirer. I'm a great admirer of the great studiers of lightning. The simplest, Benjamin Franklin. I've not read all of his autobiography because I always get distracted when I'm reading or studying things. Like, I've participated in thousands of books, but I've only read completely maybe like 120 books in my whole life. I've only read completely like 120 books in my whole life. But I've deeply participated in thousands of books in my whole life. And I've at least passively participated in millions of books in my life, right? We are living books, in a sense. That's one way of talking about what we are. And we say animals are not part of books, this or that, but books talk about animals, and books have been written about animals by us. Books and the animals we help, the animals that participate in life with us, are affected by books. Books. Man, I always get off track. I always start a video thinking about what I'm going to say, and then once I hit record, I already have my preface, I already have my conclusion. But as soon as I hit that record button, instantaneously I come up with a preface to my preface and I forget what I was talking about. It was such a beautiful idea. Before I pressed record, I reveled over it. I reveled and I reveled and I reveled and I reveled. It's funny how we kill the most beautiful, gentle things by grasping at them. I saw this beautiful idea before me. I don't even remember what it was. God damn it, it was so beautiful. lost it in the same way I've lost friends and loved ones. Simply, easily, over and over again. The same way I lose ideas, like drops of water over Niagara Falls. And you can't think of Niagara Falls without thinking of the Three Stooges. And you also can't think of Niagara Falls without thinking of the time they drained it. And what a marvel that was. What a natural marvel Niagara Falls is. What a natural marvel the psychopathy, psychopathy, psychopathology, psychopathy, psychopathology. I'm not sure what the right word is, but like all the people who have died in some kind of like worship of the falls for whatever reason. But anyway, the technological human marvel of draining the falls. And one marvel is why they drained the falls. The other marvel is the weird shit they found that had nothing to do with why they drained it. But when they drained it, they found some like crazy shit about the things that people do. Everything comes and goes. There was a beautiful thing I wanted to make. I didn't make it. I lost it. It slipped through my fingers. But that's the thing. You hit record. You do the thing. You try, you fail. You try, you fail. So I guess my entire channel is like, I try, I fail, I try, I fail. But like 1 out of 12, I get it. It's like someone's pitching to me. Every video is a swing. Except in real life, I've said it before, like in real life you don't get three swings. You get infinite swings in real life. In real life, you really only need to hit one home run in real life. So after 3 swings, most people give up because they think life is baseball. Life is not baseball. Baseball is a metaphor for life. You work real hard and then you chill the fuck out and you fuck around a little bit. You blow off some steam. You get focused. It's mostly chilling. The way you win baseball is like, I mean, I'm only assuming. I only played 2 seasons of baseball. It was terrible. But I had one really good thing. I was the worst baseball player, but like, I had a single. And then after I hit a single, I stole second, I stole third, and I stole home. And right when I did it, I was in junior high, playing baseball. I was the worst player on the team. I had the most heroic, like, couple minutes. And right when I was scoring my greatest victory, the girls' softball team had just returned from their game and were walking on the field to watch me win. I'm not even sure if we won or lost that game, but it was my most heroic sports moment. Even though I wasn't that great at baseball and didn't like it, I was a football player and I also liked to lift weights when I was younger. And my girlfriend at the time was walking in, directly looking at me as I was stealing. I was running from third to home. Someone in the outfield had thrown the ball to the pitcher. The pitcher was in the midst of throwing the ball to the catcher as I was running home. At the same time, the catcher caught the ball to strike me out, even though I'd practiced sliding not 1,000 times, like maybe 25 times. And I never got my slide right. But all of a sudden, there I was in the moment, running around the bases. All these things were lining up cosmically. The first girl I had ever truly loved in my whole life, even though she was a fucking bitch, and she would admit it. She'd be proud of it. 8th grade. I met her in 5th grade. She's walking on the field as I'm running from third base to home base, as the catcher is catching the ball to strike me out. He's striding over home plate. I slide for the first time in my life, having never slid before, a perfect slide right between his legs, and just the moment before he touches my knee with the baseball, my foot hits home plate. And I don't even like baseball. It's the greatest moment in baseball history that I'm aware of, and nobody knows it. Of course, I'm embellishing. And it's not like, I hate that. No offense, John Mellencamp. I hate that John Cougar Mellencamp song. Glory days. I hate that. I don't. In some way, I hate Al Bundy, but I don't, because Al Bundy was the funniest motherfucker ever. The whole Polk High School thing. But it's just weird, because it's not what I never wanted to be good at baseball. I don't even know why I joined up with the team. Yeah, I never liked baseball. I loved basketball. I was terrible at basketball. I played one season of basketball. But I played 6 seasons of football, so that was my best sport. And if you include, I was on this little like all-star team thing after my 6th season. So it was one game, it was 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks of practice in like one game. So that could, in a way, be considered my 7th season if I was a douchebag, which I am. And I always wanted a lineman touchdown, because when I was a little kid, I remember watching the Bears versus the Patriots. I'm pretty sure the Bears won back then. I was a little kid. And I remember I'm pretty sure the fridge made a touchdown. Back then, I didn't even know the difference between linemen and not linemen. And I didn't understand the difference between offense and defense. I played football in 7th and 8th grade. And in 7th grade, I shit you not, I was a lineman on offense, and I was a lineman on defense. We barely had enough kids to make a team at all. So everybody was Iron Man. Everybody was both sides. Everybody was special teams. For all my 6 years, I was offense, I was defense, and I was special teams. I was kickoff, I was kick return, I was punt return. blah, blah, blah. Division 4. But I worked real hard. But anyway, all that aside, and I lifted a lot of weights in my senior year, between my junior and senior year, in the summer between my junior and senior year, I gained I gained something like 35 or 40 pounds. My goal was to gain a pound a day. I drank 2 gallons of water a day, and I can't remember exactly what I did. My junior year, I cut a lot of fat. My junior year, I ate a lot of tuna fish, rice, and soy sauce. For lunch, that's what I'd eat. But then when I was a senior, I just wanted to gain weight. So I just ate everything. Everything. But my goal between my junior and senior year was to gain a pound a day, and I think I gained like 3/4 or 3/5 of a pound a day, a half pound a day. I remember the guy who was my weightlifting teacher when I was a junior was one of my assistant football coaches when I was a senior. And we had this thing in my school, 250 Club. It's called the 250 Club. So if you could bench press 250 pounds, you got your name on the wall. And that was my whole goal in life. And I got it like a few days before my senior year began, when I was on preseason, because my football coach was there and we were at practice, and I was like, yeah, I want to be on it. And he's like, you want to do it? I was like, yeah. And he's like, you want to do it right now? Even though school wasn't in session, but we were all there. So I was like, yeah. And I did it. I don't know what the more. Oh, yeah, but that's not the greatest day of my life. But it was it was a great day in my life then. It's not what I look back to. It's not the heyday. It's not the glory days. It's not. The lesson isn't that I wasn't physically fit, even though I should be more physically fit. The lesson was the determination it took for years and years, 4 years. Like when you're 18 years old and you spent 4 years or 5 years to achieve a goal and you achieve it, that's a 30-year life. So now I'm 48. And if I believe that I'm going to live as long as people live, which I'm not really sure about, but let's say I live as long as people live. I'll have my difficulties, I'll have my problems, but like I'll still be here. What can I achieve in this last third of life? Like when I achieve that goal, 1/3 of 1/6, or 1/3 of 1/3 of my life, you know? At the end of the first third of the third of my life, if I dissect the first third of my life into thirds, such that there are 9 parts, at the 3/9 part, I experienced a great success. So what if, as I go out of this world, I achieve my greatest success, which I never even uttered? It's not about the weight I lifted. It's about the impossible accomplishment that I achieved. What was once impossible became possible with desire. Well, where did that desire come from? We always think of desire as this like pushing influential force of what has come before, Or we think of instincts and Darwinism, which still like reaches back to what came before as if we're just this product of what came before. But we don't think of that future centric pulling, like an active future, like that the future isn't this thing that we come to alone, though we do come to it and we act upon it from the past to the future, that the future is itself, and uh, I wouldn't say independent, but a more or less centralized eternal reality. The future is, I dare say, a benevolent outcome that as we reach for it, the future itself reaches for us. I am the Alpha and the Omega, both. But they're independent. But they're not independent. Like two sides of a football. A football, an American football, I'm talking about an American football in this particular moment. In American football, it's an independent unit, it's a singular thing, yet it has 2 points. And they're distinguished, they're different. Same object, different points that define the object. I apologize for becoming too self important. I love my own stories too much. Yeah, maybe that's my greatest sin. I love telling stories, but I never get to the point. And I love my stories too much. Maybe I should start making outlines so that I can remember where I'm trying to get to before I lose the point. Like less is more. One of the things I wanted to say before is that sometimes one day is 3 days, because sometimes one day really delineates three major themes. But sometimes 3 days are one day, because one theme dominates strongly over 3 days. A 3 day obsession. A 3 day focal point that is an obsessive 3 day event in your life, in my life. I just had an obsessive 3 day event, a singular goal, and I accomplished more in the past, well, today's Tuesday night, from last Thursday afternoon to today. I accomplished more in that short period of time than I've ever accomplished in a short period of time. And no one knows but me. Well, and the archangels. Yeah. Maybe that's just a simple little poem to think about time. I don't have to be so serious about it, even though it was a serious situation. But yeah, maybe that's just something to chew on a little bit. Someday, one day is 3. And someday, I want to get the wording right because it's really simple. Sometimes one day is 3. Sometimes 3 days is 1. You ask yourself, as I ask myself, I assume, why would God create such a rule that one day should be 3 and 3 days should be 1? Well, maybe we fail to ask ourselves, does God operate within the same boundary? Even God has limitations. It sounds like blasphemy. It sounds like heresy, but it's not. God has the ability, the ultimate ability, to violate every lie. Perhaps it's God's greatest power. God has the ability to penetrate, to obliterate, to kill every lie. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. God didn't kill Pharaoh's lie. Moses, Pharaoh, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? But wait. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. God did that. God cannot violate the truth. People say God is like perfect, okay? People say God is all powerful, omniscient. God is omniscient, omnipotent, most potent, all potent and most potent, 2 different things, kinda. There are things God cannot do. God destroyed most of the earth once, and then God promised God would not do that again. God cannot violate God's word. For instance, but also God cannot violate 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2, this sucks. 2 plus 2 precedes God. But then again, the beginning of time was Christ on the cross. What do you mean? Much happened before that. But then when we study physics, we recognize we don't really know what time is. There's no reason to suspect that the event of the Big Bang as an idea, it's the same event, like the Big Bang in time and space is the same event as the crucifixion of Christ in space and time, or the birth of Christ, or whatever. The emergence of Christ in history is the Big Bang, and the Big Bang is the emergence of Christ in history. It's the same event. That's not an assertion, that's just something I'm working on. I think it should be noted that every time I speak, sometimes I'm speaking as like a character of myself or a character of the ideas, and I have all these different ideas. I'm never really speaking of myself unless I'm talking about like the dumb shit I've specifically done. But I'm always embellishing. I'm always lubricating the story. So that should be taken into account. And that, like, a lot of times is because I want to make the story better. And sometimes I make the story better by making myself heroic. And sometimes I make the story better by making myself more of a villain. And if I had to guess which way I lean, I think I'm probably more of a villain. But I appreciate, like, for instance, if you fail on a test, like when I went to school, 69 was an F, or maybe 68. 69 might have been a D minus. I can't remember, but I remember that when I was a kid growing up, when we got grades, like an A in most of America was between 90 and 100, but like in my school, an A was between 93 and 100. And in most schools, a B was between 80 and 90. And in my school, a B was between something like 84 and 92. I do remember that.